assignment on African and New Zealand's colonization eras. With that information, I have to relate those socio-historical backgrounds with two short stories that I have learned previously in my class, which are An Outpost of Progress by Joseph Conrad and The School Picnic by A.P. Goskell. So now, I need help from my friends to understand the relationship between those eras and the short stories. Let's go! I'm doing an assignment on New Zealand and African history on their colonization eras. And I have to relate it with the short stories that we learned and Outpost of Progress. So, could you help me with that?
Well, first of all, I'm going to tell you a short summary of the colonization of Africa. So Africa was colonized between the 1800s and the 1900s, and Africa was colonized by European powers. The notion of power and domination can be seen very clearly. Besides that, the European powers devalued and took advantage of the Africans. So I'm going to elaborate further. So let's hear it.
Their notion of power can be seen when the former Portuguese Prime Minister Marcelo Caetano said that the Africans must be directed and organized by the Europeans as they were indispensable and were used as substitutes in case of need. In the story An Outpost of Progress, the notion of power of the Europeans can be seen in the first line. There were two white men in charge of the trading station. This shows that the Africans have no power and will not be given any to manage their own land. Furthermore, the Berlin Conference made an effective occupation to expand and exercise systematic control of the Portuguese presence in Africa. The domination of the European powers can be seen when Portugal created Portuguese African in Mozambique, Guinea, and other colonies, which was later called as state provinces. The Europeans needed manpower to manage the farms and mining companies, so they resort to Africans for cheap labor. This can be seen in the text, as Kayet and Carlier are the white men who managed the station, although they asked Makola to do their jobs for them. As an example, when Makola said, "I did the best for you and the company, why you shout so much? Look at this tusk." Carlier and Kayet were mad at him for trading their carriers with the ivory tusks. Furthermore, Makola did everything that the white men asked of him. Besides that, the European powers devalue the colonized. The deposed head of the Portuguese government after Salazar views that the Africans are inherently and are naturally inferior to the white humanity. In the text, the Africans are described as they made an uncouth babbling noise when they spoke, moved in a stately manner, and sent quick, wild glances out of their startled, never-resting eyes. Subsequently, Portugal confirmed that during the 5 centuries that it dominated African territories, it was engaged in a civilizing mission. Another example is when Kayet and Carlier are talking to each other. And then, chaps will read that two good fellows, Kayet and Carlier, were the first civilized men to live in this very spot. Another example can be seen when Kayet and Carlier's first impressions of the traders. There was something in his intonation, in the sound of the long sentences he used, that startled the two whites. It was like a reminiscence of something not exactly familiar, and yet resembling the speech of civilized men. It sounded like one of those impossible languages which sometimes we hear in our dreams. Furthermore, the commodification of the colonized by the European powers is vivid when the deposed head of the Portuguese government considers that the Africans can be useful in a lot of ways as a community. The Portuguese presence consisted mainly of slave and gold traders and a small number of missionaries, which they benefited a lot from. The Portuguese power used the colonies to better their economy as it provided markets and supplying raw materials at a cheaper price than the world market rates. In the text, the line "the company never provisions the station fully and the agents required local supplies to live. They had them through the goodwill of Gobila and lived well," demonstrates that the colonized are being taken advantage of. Another example of this is when Makola informed Kayet and Kalia that they have gotten very little ivory and asked them if they want more. Kayet and Kalia took advantage of Makola and the traders, and this can be seen in the line, "Those men who came yesterday are traders from Luanda who have got more ivory than they carry home. Shall I buy? I know their camp." Instead of dealing with the traders themselves, they made Makola deal with them. Another example of this act can be seen in the line, "Once Kalia shot a hippo in the river. They had no boat to secure it and it sank. When it floated up and drifted away, and Gobilas people secured the carcass." The hippo that Gobilas people had taken was for an occasion for a national holiday, but Kalia went mad because he believes that the hippo is his as he shot it. At this, he mentioned that the Africans should be exterminated.
Oh, hi Marjan. Hi Marjan.
Hi.
So I'm doing an assignment on African New Zealand history background. And I met Naufa earlier to get information on African. So now I need the information regarding New Zealand. I know that you did an assignment on New Zealand. So could you tell me what you know about their history?
Okay, for the history of New Zealand, or in Maori language, which is Aotearoa, was first discovered by the Maoris between 950 and 1130 Anno Domini. Maori people who were from their original homeland, which is Hawaii, traveled south through the Pacific to New Zealand. For over 600 years. They were the only inhabitants there until the arrival of European explorers in mid-600th century. Now let's look at the picture.
New Zealand was colonized by the Europeans filled their country with British migrants as Maori population dominated the land throughout the 9th or the 20th century. Officially became colonies after the Treaty of Waitangi. To the launch of the 20th century of Britain's influence on human administration and culture were British model.
I need to relate those history background on the stories that we learned, the school picnic. So do you know anything about that?
Okay, the school picnic. The story tells about a substitute teacher named Miss Brown from English-speaking countries.
Yes.
I guess it might be from Britain. She had to teach the Maori people for 1 month. In the story, Miss Brown highlights the difference in class status of her and Maori people. This can be seen in quotes, emphasizing on how often she used the word uncivilized on the Maoris. From this quote, they can be linked with the history of colonization in New Zealand, as the teacher represents the colonizer per se, and she clearly degrading Maori's culture. As to her, they are not as civilized in their customs too.
Now I need more information in binary, position and othering in characteristics, physical and cultural settings. Now, let's go meet Sharifah to get information in characteristics. Let's go.
Hi Rida! A binary opposition is basically a pair of repeated terms or words that are opposite in meaning. These two words are strictly defined and set up against one another, such as civilized as opposed to uncivilized, white as opposed to black. As for othering is a view or treat a person or a group of people as such different from and alien to oneself, such as the colonized was being objectified, where their descriptions are usually exaggerated. They are usually described as deformed and other, and the colonized are seen as other than human. Now I'm going to talk about binary opposition and othering through characterization in these two short stories. Now, Outpost in Progress and School Picnic. From this quote, we can say that the colonized appeared as uncivilized and different from the colonizers. The word naked itself shows that they don't have this emotion of embarrassment and they don't feel any shame of it, while the civilized people would feel embarrassed if they were to be naked in front of other people. A picture on my right here shows that the colonized people who are the African are different from the colonizers who wear clothes. Other than that, closely like, these words are enough to show that the colonized are very much different from the colonizers who keep on being called as white. This picture on my right here shows that the colonized people are dark skinned, are very much different from the colonizer who is white. Another quote that shows binary opposition through characterization is, from this quote, we can say that the colonized people appears uncivilized as they may uncouth babbling noise where uncouth mean lacking good manners, refinement and grace. Moreover, they would choose squat over sitting, and they would squat while waiting for people to finish with their business. Now I'm going to talk about othering through characterization in school picnic. From this quote, the colonized people, which are the Maori people, are being objectified by saying that the old Aurora face is like a dry apple. This phrase itself shows an exaggeration in describing the feature of the old Aurora. The picture on my right can be related with the quote on my left. Not only that, Ms. Brown described Maori people as big and fat, and this can be seen through the quote, "One was terrorist's wife, a big fat wahine, barefooted with a rug around her." These two words, big and fat, are constantly used in this short story. Maori people have bigger features as compared to her, and this statement shows that the Maori people are like giant to her because they are bigger than everything. Now I'm going to talk about binary opposition through characterization in school picnic through this quote. This quote clearly shows the binary opposition through characterization. Ms. Brown described the Maori people as savages just because they don't act like her and they have different culture than her. And this can be seen through the quote. The Maori people have this traditional dance called haka. And Miss Brown described them as uncivilized because their haka did not show any gracefulness as compared to the colonized dances where they would sweep around, dancing gracefully and the beat would not thunder around the room. As you can see, the colonizers describe the African and the Maori as someone who is not perfect, be it their speech, movement, or even their physical features.
What about physical settings?
So you want to know what's physical settings, right? So basically it's a physical setting works as a backdrop of the story to enhance and ensure an interesting read. From that, the reader, like you, is able to understand the story more thoroughly with detailed descriptions for the settings chosen. In both quotes, the binary opposition that can be seen here is privileged versus underprivileged. Kayets and Kalia, well, because of their position, they were able to get a more luxurious stay than the Africans. Their living environment is more safe and home-like, and more maintained for the benefits of their well-being. Unlike the Africans, referring to the quotes, posing that as wandering strangers that will be killed by the inhabitants of the country, the Africans had to live in an untamed and dangerous environment just to survive. Understood here basically talks about the surrounding environment that was beginning to transform into something dark and frightening. The train was on its way to the station as its engine blows steams. It sounded like a shriek inhuman, vibrating and sudden, pierced like a sharp dart. Acted as a call or command for Kayet to commit suicide, to surrender himself once and for all from living in this land of sorrow. This is because Kayet no longer have a reason to stay, for he had killed his only friend Kalia. Kalia was more precious to him here in the center of Africa than a brother could be anywhere else. The florist that promises good things had led him to his death, just like the former director. So this quote simply described what Kayet was feeling after killing his only friend, by using the environment to bring up the moody and eerie feeling. Africa is known for its rainforest, hence it's always raining from time to time. However, for this particular day, the environment felt cold and chilly. It acted as an introduction of an unforeseen doom that was about to happen on this specific day. Kayet's action has made nature imbalanced, and now nature has come to play its part. The miswipe and deadly, immaculate and poisonous statement from my view is the way how nature tries to influence Kayet, resolving into killing himself. The chilly feeling from the midst has made kites afraid to the bones and petrified with his own actions. So in terms of binary opposition, as mentioned by Sharifah earlier on, based on the quote I have just read, it describes what Miss Brown thinks of the physical setting, well, specifically how King Country School is and how different it is with the school she used to go back in the city. These highlight the binary opposition in terms of developed versus undeveloped. The focal point for this claim is that Miss Brown finds that the King Country School is so undeveloped compared to the city school. She makes comparison of both schools to accentuate how run down the school is in the village. It is as if she is indirectly trying to say that the quality of education is lesser here, comparing to studying in a city school where, at the actual fact, it was up to her to make it so. For this quote, the comparison is made based on civilized versus uncivilized. Miss Brown described the playpen the children in the town go to have fun, which is known as a paddock, which is actually known as a field where horses are kept or exercised. Essentially, Miss Brown indirectly trying to say that the children in this town is uncivilized for playing in a horse pen, even though they're dressed up in a civilized manner, clean in white shirts and with their hair plastered down. Comparing to city children, they have a proper playground that is completely maintained from time to time. They are able to play and run in a safe environment, horse-free, and that shows civilization to Miss Brown. This quote basically highlights another term which is othering for the short story. Miss Brown made a link between the whole and the town. Miss Brown is trying to imply that the feeling she had living in this town is exactly how a person would feel if they were living in a hole, which is dirty and uncomfortable. She felt restricted and apparently uncivilized as this place does not fit for a civilized person she proclaims she is. Indirectly, she is pointing out her views of the villagers living here, which are uncivilized. Another othering term is displayed in this quote as Miss Brown described the setting where the pupils were living in this town. The term she uses, that mass of second growth, actually signifies a forest or woodland growth that replaces harvested burned virgin forest. Miss Brown is emphasizing what sort of environment the pupils were living in, which initially describing how the environment has molded the pupils the way they are today. From her view, only uncivilized people would live in a rundown place. The fact that they are living in that environment has gotten Miss Brown into thinking that these pupils actually fit the picture, as they are backward and outdated and completely shadowed and forgotten for being uncivilized. So from what I have described just now, do you understand now, Weirda? Bye!
What else is missing? Oh, cultural settings. Let's go.
Hi! I personally believe that no matter who you are, no matter what race you are or tribe you are, there are definitely cultural customs or practices that are passed down to you by your ancestors. So, cultural settings are basically elements that reflects your beliefs, lifestyle, and also value which shape your identity. Through the short story Outpost of Progress, there are a few quotations that show the custom and culture of the Africans during the pre-colonization. For example, this quote. From this quote, we can clearly see that for Africans to bath in the river publicly is not an odd thing. It's not that they're not shameful or what, but it's just the lifestyle, it's just how they live. Africans, especially during the pre-colonization, they depend a lot on the nature resources. One of the example is river. The river is a place for them to get water, a place for them to clean themselves. Okay, another custom or culture that can be shown through this story is through this quotation. Dancing and music were everything for the Africans, especially during pre-colonization. They would dance and sing and play drums during various occasions, including celebration, funeral, and even just for mere entertainment. When the Africans dance, they really dance with their heart and soul. They look like they have turned into someone else,
someone that is not sane. They would like shout while they play drums, while they sing, which for the non-Africans is something an uncivilized person would do. But that's their culture. It doesn't mean that they're not civilized. That's how the dance is. That's how they have fun. Enough for the Africans' custom. Let's look at Maori's custom through the short story School Picnic. Let's look at the first quote. So the blue markings on the Maori's women is their signature. It's their way to show their identity as one of the Maoris. So the blue marking is called the tamoka, and the intricate design is chiseled into their skin using this tool called uhi, and the ink is smudged into the curved lines. The facial tattoos for the Maori represents their wealth and social status. As for the Maori women, it is a marking of the passage between a girl and their adulthood. Another custom of the Maori can be shown through this quote. So this quote basically describes the haka dance. Haka is a traditional war cry or dance performed by a group of Maori men, vigorously stamping their feet and shouting rhythmically. It was originally performed by warriors before they go to a battle to proclaim their strength and to intimidate their position. So besides that, it is also now performed to welcome guests and during funeral. And here is an example of the haka dance.
Wow, what a tiring day! But after hearing from my friends, I've gained a lot of information regarding the African and New Zealand history that I can relate to the stories that I've learned in Outpost of Progress and the School Picnic. Now can begin my assignment. Thanks for being with me on my journey. Bye!